Kerriann Flanagan Brosky.
And who am I, Kerriann?
You're the infamous Joe Giaquinto.
Infamous, huh?
Yes. Thank you for joining us tonight. I don't know why it seems like we haven't done a webinar in a while, but
seems like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know why. Lots going on these days. But tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about the Montauk Manor, one of my favorite places. I stay there quite often. Montauk is actually one of my favorite places on Long Island, to be exact. And the manor and the area surrounding the manor, meaning next door at the Fort Hill Cemetery, it's very beautiful and it's a very spiritual place. And we're going to tell you all about it. Now, when people say to me, let me just put my phone on silent here. When people say to me that they're going to Montauk, I often tell them that they need to make a trip to Fort Hill Cemetery, which is next door to the Montauk Manor. And who would think of going to a cemetery if you're going on vacation? But it is so beautiful. And in that cemetery, when you pull in, you wouldn't think it was a cemetery because you don't see the tombstones. They're all completely flat. And it offers some of the most beautiful views of Montauk. So if you're in Montauk, I would definitely recommend going to the Fort Hill Cemetery and taking a look, and you'll see the Montauk Manor from there. So I actually, it was on the cover of my first book, the first ghost book, I should say, Ghosts of Long Island, Stories of the Paranormal. There were steps going up. I should have had the book available to show you. But there were steps going up that offered these views. And then the manor itself was on the cover of the third ghost book. Yeah, Historic Haunts of Long Island. So the story actually spans two of my books, and it's a very popular story. And for those of you who may not know us, I am the author of 8 books. My 9th book, Haunted Long Island Mysteries, is coming out this fall. And we are hoping that we will be back up and running and doing in-person events. If you're interested in any of my books this evening, you can go right onto my website and buy them either through Amazon or through my website, where you can get a signed and personalized book. And there's a couple to choose from there. So Joey, you have a couple of remarks about yourself and about the manor?
Not really. No, I'm just kidding. Hi, everybody. So many of you know me. So I'm Joe G, the Ghostbuster, and I'm also a psychic medium. And I met Kerriann in 2005, and we've been working ever since. And we've done a lot of places together. And Montauk was that the one that we went to the Southampton Windmill first, and then we drove out?
Yeah, we may have. We've done a couple of things.
We did a couple of tips, but there was one day we went to interview the director, I think, at the Montauk Manor, and that's the one where it took us the manager. It took us like 5 hours to get there.
Yeah. We must have had a lot of traffic that day.
That was crazy, but I love that place. And I went back there. I think he was staying there, and I came for a visit. But we're going to talk about the place tonight. Just think, when you see this place, just think of The Shining.
I know, but it's really not like that. Trust me, it is absolutely beautiful. And they made it a little spookier on the cover of Historic Haunts of Long Island. That was one of my photos, and the artist did a little enhancing, shall we say. Yeah. So,
and I thought the cemetery, I really enjoyed. When we were out in the field there, it's very interesting. The energy there is really interesting. So we're going to talk about that tonight.
Good. And we have lots of photos to show you at the end too. Some never before seen photographs. All right. So for those of you who don't know about the Montauk Manor, it was actually Carl Fisher's dream in the summer of 1925 to create, in quotes, the most fabulous summer resort ever imagined in the Western world. Fisher was a multi-million-dollar industrialist who was responsible for the development of Miami Beach, Florida. He envisioned Montauk as having a beach club, a yacht club, polo fields, a golf course, a ranch, and a health spa.
Yeah, and his centerpiece would be the Montauk Manor, which is a 200-room luxury resort hotel. Now, it's a magnificent Tudor-style castle on the hill. It would be built on a piece of land known as Signal Hill. And in 1927, part of Fisher's dream became a reality when the manor was officially open. Now the rich and famous flooded its grand ballrooms. They played croquet on the rolling front lawn. They drank tea on the veranda overlooking the manor's 10,000 acres. And they ate in some of the finest restaurants.
Yes, it really was. I don't know if any of you have read the book. I'm forgetting her name. It's Nicola Harris, maybe?
Maybe.
She wrote a book called Montauk. It was her first book, and I definitely recommend reading that. It's a work of fiction, but it takes place in the Montauk Manor.
Did she actually, do you know, did she write that while she was staying there, or?
I don't know. I think she lives out on the East End, but it was a wonderful story. So I highly recommend it. Again, it's a work of fiction, but it takes place during this actual time period. But when Carl Fisher built this, and when these guests were going through the Roaring Twenties, what they didn't realize was that what was beneath this massive structure, there was numerous Indian graves.
Oh, I know.
This had been built.
I just have to interrupt you, Kerriann. So, like in the movie Poltergeist.
Yes, I know. It's
right?
kind of like that. It was built
like
on top of that.
You built the development on top of the cemetery. Well, nobody complained until now.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So here you could picture it's the Roaring Twenties, and people are having these lavish parties in this beautiful place that Carl Fisher just built, and they have no idea what went on prior to that. And it wasn't just an Indian burial ground. We're going to get into all of the details of that. But it is said to be haunted by the ghost of an Indian chief, although the past several years there have not been any sightings, but at one point there were many sightings of this. Now, Montauk was inhabited by a large number of Native Americans, more than 3,000 years actually before the white man stepped foot onto Long Island and, in the area. Now, the tribe called the land Montauket, meaning hilly country. The tribe itself was known as the Montauks, and the Indians were called the Montaukets. They were a peaceful tribe who fished the waters and farmed the land. And there's very few, unfortunately, Montaukets left because so many of them had been killed off over the years or died on their own.
Yeah, and by 1620, Kerriann, Chief Wyandanch had become known as the greatest chief in Montauk history. Unfortunately, his friendship with Lion Gardner, the Gardner's Island, the Gardner family, and his tribe's involvement with the British settlers would ultimately cost the Montauk tribe their land. Wyandanch and Gardner became so close, they went through a traditional blood brother ritual, and they helped one another whenever they could. The Montaukets lived in peace with the white men, but they were almost constantly at war with the more aggressive tribes from New England, the Pequots, and the Narragansetts. These tribes would quietly sail across Long Island Sound in their canoes and launch an attack once they hit land. And Kerriann, do you remember when we sat with Chief Gail Rivas? You remember she talked about how they used to come across in the canoes? Yeah,
that was for our Strong's Neck story.
That's right.
So there were a lot of these attacks, and it was awful because the Montaukets were, as I mentioned, a very peaceful tribe. Now, in 1642, the Narragansetts organized and led an uprising of the other New England tribes against British settlements. The Montaukets fought side by side with the British, and Wyandanch stayed loyal to his blood brother, which was Gardner. This left the Montaukets completely isolated from the other Indian tribes, and they became more dependent on the white settlers. By 1653, the Narragansetts once again set foot in Montauk, waging a surprise attack on the Montaukets. And these were fierce warriors. They nearly destroyed the Montauk Indians in one of the worst attacks ever made on the tribe. The ambush took place at the foot of the present-day Montauk Manor. Because of the terrible losses inflicted on the Montaukets, the low-lying land just east of Fort Hill, next to Signal Hill, has become known as Massacre Valley. So I had mentioned to you about the front cover of Ghosts of Long Island, the original book. And there's a beautiful picture of the steps. I think we have that to show on our slideshow after.
I think so. We do, yes.
Okay. And when you walk up those steps, you could actually see what they had called Massacre Valley. And it's very high. So it offers, I mean, today, beautiful views of Montauk. But that was the vantage point that the Indians took to look for these other tribes coming. And at one point, they just weren't prepared. They came at night, and very quietly they came across, and this is where the massacre had taken place. So it really covered that whole area from where the cemetery is over to the Montauk Manor.
Yeah, and at least 30 Montauk Indians were killed. 14 others were taken captive, including Wyandanche's daughter, who was celebrating her wedding feast that night. Now, it's said that his daughter, named Quashawam, Heather, which is heather flower. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. How do you say that, Kerriann? Is it?
I don't know. That's why I gave it to you to say.
Oh, thanks. Okay, I think it's Quashawam.
Yes.
Let me say
It's
that
a hard
one more time.
one.
Quashawam. Yes.
Yes, I think
The
so.
spirits are looking favorably on me right now for saying it right. Watched in horror, though, as her husband was massacred right in front of her. Can you imagine that? Your wedding night, you see husband get killed. And there's no historical record confirming that his death actually occurred. But Quashawam was taken to the Narragansetts, who held her for ransom. So what a horrible night. And when Wyandanche could not come up with the rest of the ransom, Lion Gardner traveled to Rhode Island, pay the additional money, and then she was released.
Yeah, because they really were really great friends. And
that was that had to be some. I can't imagine what it must have felt like to be going through that.
Right. So as far as the Fort Hill Cemetery, it was established by East Hampton Town during the 1980s. It was named Fort Hill after the Indians who had once lived there. Did we lose you, Joe? Hopefully.
No, I'm here.
Okay. Some Native Americans believe that Wyandanche is buried somewhere on top of the hill. I believe that there are other Indians buried there as well. And there are many Indians in unmarked graves, both on the Fort Hill side and the Montauk Manor side, probably hidden under a great deal of brush. I mean, if you go to this area, you'll see be careful of ticks if you go, in the spring and the summertime. But you can almost feel it. And they used to be marked with a circle of stones. But again, because of all this underbrush, I don't know if it's there anymore. Now, at the time the manor was built, many of the graves that could be seen were probably moved and possibly over to this area of the cemetery. But really the whole area was disrupted during the manor's construction.
Yeah, and the Montaukets weren't the only ones who died on the land. No. During the late 1890s, many of Teddy Roosevelt's soldiers came down with yellow fever. It spread among the troops so quickly that Roosevelt decided to lead them up the sacred hill on the sacred site on the hill. So the route they took was up the present-day road instead, and that was located next to the Montauk Playhouse, and that leads up to the manor. So the hill was very steep, and the soldiers really struggled in their weakened conditions to climb it. Can you imagine this? Seeing all these soldiers just barely crawling up this hill. And it's said that over 300 men died en route. Yeah. Some died in a detention hospital that was set up near the present manor, and the soldiers were temporarily buried above Indian remains. Because this whole situation was just a hard mess. And that was both at Fort Hill and nearby at Lake Montauk. So eventually, most of their bodies were exhumed and sent home, and neither of the makeshift cemeteries were marked.
Now, there are two ways to get into the manor today, is through the main entrance, through the residential area. And then there is another back area that you could go up by the firehouse if you're familiar with Montauk at all. There's the firehouse, and then there's the playhouse, which has been restored now. I think it's a community center. Yeah. But that's the hill that Joe's talking about. Every time I drive up there, and it is pretty steep even now, but it's paved and everything. But every time I drive up there, I think of that story, Joe. I think of Teddy Roosevelt's men going up there with the yellow fever and dying. So I would say like where the parking lot is of the Montauk Manor was where they actually had their camps and laid out the bodies. So
did we feel any energy when we were there in that area where they all died? We had some feelings there.
yeah, I think we did. I mean, Joe and I did this
It
investigation
was
a
very
long time ago.
melancholy. Yeah.
But it was, you could feel the shift in energy when you're there.
Yeah.
Now, as far as, again, with the manor and how it was built, the Great Depression hit in 1929, and Carl Fisher and his Montauk Beach Development Corporation went bankrupt, and the manor was barely surviving. And in the 1930s, the American economy began to improve, and the manor thrived once again, with guests arriving from stagecoach from the Long Island Railroad. Now, from many of the rooms at the manor, you can see the railroad station, on the side where you could see the water overlooking what was, again, Massacre Valley. But the railroad station was right there. So people would come in on the weekends and, like they do now, spend the weekends at this beautiful place. So that continued. However, once World War II began, the Army and the Navy took over most of Montauk, including the manor. The Army used the manor as barracks for the duration of the war, which a lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Now, once peace was declared, the middle-class families began coming to Montauk on vacation. They would stay however, though, they would stay not in the manor, they would stay in the local motels that you see now that are located along the beach, which were built during the 1950s. For the families, the motels were simple and convenient and were right in town. So these types of vacationers at this point had no interest in the elegant luxury of the manor. So by 1963, the Montauk Manor closed and was subject to vandalism. And I'm so upset. Back when I was in college studying, my degree is actually in photography. I had spent, trying to think, 1988 and 1987. I had spent the month of August in both of those years out in Montauk, not at the manor, but I did a lot of photographing at the time. And I remember, Joe, going to the Montauk Manor and seeing it. It was so scary when it was in just utter disrepair, overgrown. And I cannot find those photographs. I have so many negatives because it was taken with a film camera.
Right.
I have everything organized. I don't know if I took them with black and white film or with slides, but I have been searching for them, and I'm pretty organized. Cannot find those pictures because I would have loved to have shared those tonight. But it was very unfortunate, and it was like that for decades, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's interesting how a lot of these places, like we think about Deep Wells Farm, how that was left to its own devices and it was occupied by vandals and squatters.
Yeah, we've had a couple of stories that are like that. Yeah.
So, and following what you were saying, so for 2 decades, the manor was empty and overgrown property, and no one could afford to fix it up. You think about the cost of it. Yet no one could destroy it either. So a developer reportedly was interested in it once and had plans to demolish it. He later found out that the building was so well constructed, it would have cost a fortune to knock it down.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can understand that because I remember having a conversation with my dad about when you build some of these places, you put like a lot of rebar in, which is like steel reinforcement that you put in the concrete and in the structures. So it probably was built really, really strong, especially if the army or used it for barracks, because it was probably bombed.
You figure all the storms and everything that we've had, and it's still there. It's beautiful.
It's probably double, like everything completely built of steel frames. Anyway, during the 70s, it was suggested the building be turned into condominiums. But due to inflation, the oil crisis, the plans did not go through. So by 1985, the Cibidon Corporation purchased it and spent about $15 million renovating it and turning the rooms into 140 different kind of apartments. Now, sales lagged after the 87 stock market plunge, but 2 years later, the J.E. Robert Company took over marketing and advertising, and the remaining units were sold.
Yeah, so today, I mean, you can make reservations to go there. Some of the units are privately owned by full-time owners. Other ones, each one is owned by someone that rents it out, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But every room is different. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
interesting. I
Yeah.
found that very interesting.
And I remember the time that I was meeting Joe out there, and I'm coming from all the way up island here, and I had to stay over, and so I stayed there. And I've been in many rooms there, and I have ones that I particularly like a lot. But the room I had that time when I went in, there was pictures of Indians all over the room, and I remember spooking myself out because I knew that we were discussing the ghost of the Indian chief. That was what our focus was
Yeah, and
going to be. So,
you remember when we were there. I know you want to talk about the ghosts and stuff.
right.
But I remember
Yeah, but
when
we had a few experiences.
we did, and it really at night it really was interesting going in there. I mean, and
Yeah.
the rooms. You're right. The rooms are all different.
They're all different. They're all
Even
very, very
when
different.
my mom stayed there, you recommended it, and my mom, my sister were there, and yeah, every room has its own character,
Yeah,
and maybe
exactly.
a ghost too.
Yeah, maybe. Now, when Joe and I went there, we interviewed General Manager Janice Nessel, who's still the manager there. She's a wonderful person, and gave us a great interview. We interviewed her, and I think one of the another worker, custodial type job worker. But I had asked her flat out. I said, there have been rumors that the Montauk Manor is haunted, and she said yes. That has been common knowledge, especially amongst the people in the town, that the Montauk Manor has been haunted for years. Now, what started early on when she started work there, and I don't know, I think she's there at least 30 years now, there were corporate guests that they would have also that would book rooms because they have a meeting hall that people could book for meetings and that kind of thing. So they had corporate guests. So one time it was, later in the evening, and one of these guests came down to the front desk and he said, I have not been drinking, but I don't know who's running around this hotel, but there is an Indian in full headdress roaming the hall. And I forget it may have been on the fourth floor. And he said, I don't understand. I just wanted to call it to your attention. So they looked at the surveillance camera for that hallway, and there was no one that ever appeared in the Indian headdress. But that was not the only person who claimed. There were several guests that would come down saying that they saw the same thing. Then there was another person that wasn't a corporate person, just a regular guest, that saw the Indian outside by the duplexes on the first floor. Around the same time, News 12 actually did a short documentary clip on the manor being haunted, and that's sort of how it became known at that point. But there were sightings for years, and it had been reported that primarily it was the chief that was seen on the fourth floor, but there were others who reported seeing him, as I mentioned, on the first floor outside. And at the time, not only did we interview Janice, but it was a maintenance manager. That's right. He was an engineer, right? A maintenance engineer. His name was Jimmy Hackett. And he had been working there as long as Janice had. He believed he may have captured the ghost on film at one time. So he had to do a lot of painting and different maintenance jobs. And one of the things he had to do, there's a restaurant there. It's been many, many restaurants over the years. And he was painting the inside of the restaurant. So he was taking before and after shots. And when he looked at his images, he saw that there was this hazy white image, that was floating by in one of his pictures. And there was no one else in the restaurant with him. It was almost like a white light that was going across it. And he said that it was definitely not in any of his other photos.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Jimmy Did you ever see that paint? That
No,
photo?
he may have showed me at the time, but I don't have a copy of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be interesting to see that.
yeah.
It was another interesting story that Jimmy told you, if you recall.
Mm.
He and his wife lived in one of the rooms on the third floor, I think,
Yes.
for a while.
Yeah.
And they would always hear a lot of noises directly above them on the fourth floor. Like, so, when you stay in a hotel, sometimes you hear noisy neighbors. And especially since people live there. And Jimmy couldn't understand what was going on. So he knew the man upstairs very well. He was a local guy, and he was living at the manor at the time, full time. So one day, Jimmy couldn't take the noise anymore. So he went up there, knocked on the door. No one answered. He had all the keys, the master keys, of course, and he knew the guy. So, he said, I'll open the door, see what's going on. No one was there. But all the closet doors were all open. The lights were on. And apparently the guy that was living there claimed things like that would happen when he was in the room. So he finally chose to move out.
Yeah, exactly. But this is a true story. I mean, and all the doors, everything was open, and it was,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what room that was on the fourth floor.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to see that room. And it's interesting because in a lot of the events, a lot of places we've investigated, a lot of places I've been to with my group separately, we always hear stuff banging around and moving around upstairs. And even at, we can't say what place, but the one that's out east, I'll just say that has to do with large animals that people ride. There was, we heard stuff upstairs on the second floor.
But did you take your group to the manor ever? I don't think so, right?
No, I'd love to do that. That would be great. It'd be a nice trip once things open up.
Right, exactly.
But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I also just want to bring up, I just looked in the chat, and thank you, Catherine. She reminded me it's Nicola Harrison is the Montauk book. Definitely, it's so good. And it takes place at the manor during the time that it was built. And it actually has Carl Fisher in it, showing potential real estate people, the land. That's why, I don't know if you're aware of this either, the tower that's in the center of town, when you drive into Montauk, that's right by the green there, that was also built by Carl Fisher. It was built actually before the Montauk Manor was built. And he would take guests to the top floor and show them, potential investors, show them these beautiful views of Montauk so they could pick where they wanted the hotels. I mean, could you imagine if the Great Depression didn't happen? Montauk could very well look exactly like Miami.
Yeah, that's crazy? Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's it does have that look to it. Another thing too, Kerriann, I know we're a little off topic here, but it's just a point to be made here because of the pandemic that when you were talking about the history of the place, how it's gone through several times when it's been sort of down and out. It just reminds us that in life and in any kind of business, for our business people, our audience who are in the business or own a business or a hotel or a restaurant, that you're going to go through periods when things are really tough, but you will get through them and things will get better.
Right. And I can't say enough about how the manor has handled everything with the pandemic.
They're very nice over there.
Yeah, it's very clean, and I mean they were scrubbing the inside of the pool when I was there last year. I mean it was amazing. So, but getting back to some of the stories that Janice told us for a moment, because this is a really good story that she told us. It was about a week or so before, a couple of days actually before Labor Day weekend. I forget what year it was. It was a while ago, but Labor Day weekend, the last weekend of the summer, it's very busy, and the manor was completely booked with guests. She received a call from an Indian chief, and she didn't remember who it was from what tribe.
Right.
But he told her that his tribe was having a historical bicentennial celebration. And he said, I know that there is the soul of another Indian chief here. Mm-hmm. And he said, we would like to put it to rest. And how we would do this is we would set up erect a teepee in the parking lot and light it on fire. Okay. So Janice was like, you can't set up a teepee and light it on fire in the middle of the parking lot. It's against all of East Hampton Town's fire codes, and she felt terrible. She said, but this can't be done. And he said, well, we have to be able to get this Indian chief to cross over to the other side. And this is a true story. I mean, this really happened. They couldn't do this particular ritual, but they I don't know what else they did. I don't think it was on the grounds of the manor, but it was shortly after that time that the Indian chief really wasn't seen much anymore, oddly enough. So he may have crossed over, but what we think has happened is that whoever this chief was of the Montaukets during the time of these massacres, he was buried there. And then again, Carl Fisher built on top, and he was not happy about it. But to this day, there hasn't been many sightings, I don't think at all, of the chief since that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. According to the, I think it's the Montauk Community Message Forum.
Yeah.
Which addresses local questions and concerns over the internet. The manor has been the topic of many a conversation. And I have to tell you personally, everybody's always wanting to go out to Montauk, whether it's the Montauk Project or
the Montauk Monster. Remember that?
The Montauk Monster.
That was about 20 years ago. The Montauk Monster.
I tell you just a quick side story, but Montauk is a very interesting place, and it's really very wild a place. We always think of it's Long Island, it's just a few, not a far drive, but the coast is rocky. I mean,
it's wild. It's
wild. And
it's definitely different.
Yeah, years ago, I was interested in going hang gliding, ultralight. And there was a fellow that told me they used to hang glide because of the thermals off the rocks, off the point out in the ocean. And they said one day he lost the wind or something, and he ended up going into the drink, and when he got into the ocean off the rocks there, I guess by the lighthouse, there were great white sharks out there.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, and I don't know if this is true. I think they said they tore his paraglider to shreds. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's a new one.
Yeah, so it's really wild. It's beautiful out there, but
there's a lot of stories. I mean,
a lot of stories.
There was someone that wrote 2 books on Camp Hero and this Time Machine Project. People have said that there's sightings of Bigfoot. Even I had someone actually at a book signing event asked me if I knew anything about Bigfoot out of Montauk, and I said no, that's not really my area of expertise.
Interesting. Well, there are several. So going back to the conversation. So one of the conversation, of course, they talk about the Indian chief.
In the forum. Yes, let's go back to the forum.
Yeah, and one stated that a young man from New Jersey who was staying at the manor with 2 other men on a golf package tour woke in the middle of the night and saw an American Indian in feathers standing at the end of his bed. The first thing I would think if I saw that would be, don't scalp me,
Right.
But anyway, his screams apparently woke the other 2 men that were in the room he was sharing, and they saw it as well. They saw the specter. In an instant, it was gone. And there's another story, I think on the forum mentioned a cleaning lady, and the woman was cleaning the men's sauna downstairs when she heard the door slam.
Yeah, that's in the lower level by the pool.
Lower level.
Yeah,
yeah.
The indoor pool.
Oh, the indoor. And then that noise was followed by a baby's cry. Terrified, she ran to management and said she would never work there alone again.
Right.
Another person on the forum also claimed that 4 ghosts, not Native Americans, appeared to frequently show up while she was living on the first floor. So different ghosts.
Right. And again, I mean, who knows how reliable these stories are because they were on a neighborhood forum. But there was another story about a 9-year-old girl. I don't know if you heard this one, Joe. She lived next door to the Fort Hill Cemetery, and she claimed to have seen an American Indian in full headdress, and this is in quotes, perched on top of the hill. And this was 2 years after the cemetery was established. So it was in the 80s. Before she could show anyone or tell anyone, the specter was gone.
Yeah, and I just want to talk a little bit about the investigation. We went there, and it was a while ago. I did come up with a couple of sound bites, but mainly I'm going to play one is the EVP. that happened when you and I were down the first floor, and we were walking through the different rooms, looking at the piano and everything. And I do have a clip of the piano playing. It was something, I'm trying to remember, there was something.
Oh, I have a story with the piano.
Wasn't the piano automated?
Yes. Well, let me just, this is sort of a side thing.
Yeah, sure.
When my children were little, and we would go there for vacation, you know, they had a grand piano, a player piano. They still have it, but I don't know, it's not really turned on anymore. But I would tell my sons that I said, look, the ghost of the manor is playing the piano. And they believed it every time. They couldn't wait to go into the manor. Look, Mom, the ghost is playing the piano. And it was just one of those fun, great memories of the player piano. But I don't know how we got off onto that tangent.
Well, yeah. Because I was talking about how we were walking around looking at stuff, and I have an EVP down there. But anyway, so if I remember, first we had this. It was a crazy time getting there. We were supposed to get there at like 3 in the afternoon, 3:30. We didn't get there till like 5:30.
Yeah, I remember it was dark, and we also, this was one of our very early. I mean, this was for the first ghost book. So we don't have as much information, or I don't know. We just don't have as much evidence as we do with stories we get now, because we've evolved. We didn't have the ghost box back then.
No, and one thing I've always done on our events is I've always used the little Olympus digital recorder. Oh, I have it, one of them here. You see that there.
To get the white noise EVPs, which we've played for you before.
Yeah, but what I used to do in the beginning is, before the ghost box, I always used to turn the digital recorder on, and it would catalog our entire walkthrough. And then sometimes we would ask questions, and we'd queue up like a Q&A recording session. See, we got to. But I used to go through and listen to, when we went through the different rooms, and if we commented on, I heard something. So we always had transcripts, digital transcript, audio transcripts of our walkthrough. And, over the years, Kerry and I, it's been since 2005, 16 years ago. Sometimes just for fun, I'll go back and listen to some of these early investigations, and I'll find stuff.
Yeah, I know, things that we didn't find before.
Yeah, because as Kerriann said, we got better at what we do. I mean, for example, now when we go out, we have the ghost box. We're more organized. I usually do a video just with a basic camera, camera phone. I'm not a big, Kerriann's the photography wizard here. She uses the expensive still camera, but I take a video of the room. So if we go back 6 months later, we say, where was that? And we look at the video. So we are much more organized. And again, the white noise EVPs that we got with the digital recorder are nowhere near comparison to the conversations we get on the ghost box, which in the new book will be very amazing experience to listen to some of these. Anyway,
but talk about the one thing is the drums, because then I had an experience separate from you, Joe.
Yes. Well, so we heard the drums, and that was in the field, I think, in the cemetery, right? Or was it down in the rooms?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I think we were in the fields by the cemetery, because when I heard them seperate from you, it was at the manor. Yeah.
Right.
So go ahead, tell your story first.
Well, just from what I can remember, we went in the cemetery, the field, where there are no headstones. Right. And we heard the drums, or I heard the drums. It was a very eerie place. And then what we did was we walked through. They gave us permission to walk through the place late at night. So we actually went. Remember, we went.
Yeah,
through
I remember that.
Halls. And there was one point when we heard the drums, or we heard banging or something. Maybe that was in one of the stairwells. And then I heard the kids playing. I heard the sound of kids giggling. And I was looking for the EVP, but there wasn't enough time to go through the 2 or 3 hours. Look. They're here. The chief is here.
My light did not do anything.
My light, This happens a lot.
It does, and I have my light to my left, and it did not flicker.
And that was actually,
I don't know what that is.
usually it's just
Yeah.
like a little flash. This time you
Yeah.
actually went almost
Yeah.
invert. You went
And
like
I'm telling you, the light that I have next to me did not move at all.
we should ask the spirits to give us like 2 flashes to see. But guys,
seeing this live.
you just witnessed a
Yeah.
paranormal event here. It
Yeah.
might, it might be our friend from Country House too, doing that.
Oh, Annette, yes, she might be
likes to
listening
do
in on
the
our
she likes to do
webinars
that little
on the other side.
light flash and that thing.
But with the drums, Joe, I have to say it's
Yes.
interesting because about, I don't know, 3 years later,
Mhm.
when I was vacationing at the manor, it was, I mean, we all know about Montauk and the fog. Okay. So it was a night that was very foggy, and, they don't like the residents or the guests roaming the property after 10 o'clock. So it was close to that time.
Mhm.
And I decided to walk around just because it was spooky and I wanted to see if I would get anything. And when I was standing in front of the manor, I heard the drums also, and it was coming from Fort Hill Cemetery. Now, people have said, who are skeptics, oh, well, there's bars and there's this and that in town, and, you hear the drums. It was not that type of drum because, again, I've stayed there, and I forget the name of the place that's down the road. I know the sound of live music and the sound of drums that are performing. And this was a very rhythmic, low, like they were Indian drums. And
Mhm.
I couldn't believe that years later I had heard them again. So could you sort of explain, Joe, about that phenomenon and why that happens, why it occurs?
Yeah, you mean the yes, like the imprint of
Yeah.
the sound? Sure. So, okay. So one of the things Kerriann and I have talked about in the past, we talked about place memory, we talked about imprints, um, ghosts, that appear. And just like that, energy from anything can get trapped in a particular area, and it gets triggered under certain atmospheric conditions. So the drums get embedded in the area, in the land, and the energy is still there. It's sort of like, how many of you have you ever had this happen where you looked at a bright light and then you blink and you see the light, but it's the opposite color? It's like it's an after image.
Or you look away and
But you look away and you see
the image.
the image.
So that's sort of like an imprint then.
It is. It's an after image of the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets, we've had this many times. We had this at Setauket.
Right. And we're going to talk about that next week, actually.
Yeah. About the cannon fire we heard, which we got on the tape, which we'll play for you.
Yeah.
So, so I think that's basically, it's just basically trapped in the air, in the grounds. And it just goes around, just ricochets around and around. It's like energy discharging.
And you have to be in the right place at the right time to hear. So it's not necessarily that there's a group of Indians there banging away on the drums. It's more that, again, it's trapped, and certain atmospheric conditions will release this. And if you're in the right place at the right time, you'll hear it. But it was interesting that I heard it.
Yeah, I want to say one other thing too, which I've never talked about before with you, Kerriann. So there's a movie, the original movie with Roddy McDowall, I think, Rod Taylor, and it's called A Time Machine. And in that movie, he's demonstrating a miniature time machine that's on the table, and all the scientists, all his friends are there, and they're very skeptical. And he starts this little time machine up, and it just starts to whir and make sounds, and then it just disappears. And everybody thinks it's a parlor trick. Where'd it go? And Rod Taylor says, it's still there. It's in the same place, but in the past or in a different time.
Oh, yeah.
So in other words, sound, I think, can occupy the same, when you have a sound 100 years ago, it's still there.
Yeah.
But it's in a different time, but it's still in the same spot.
And I'll give an example.
Somehow the portal opens, and that sound, you kind of temporarily can peek into it. Like if you're in a ship, you're in a stateroom, and you open the portal to see the ocean and get some fresh air coming from the sea breeze. Right. You open that up, and so I never thought of this, but
well, the thing is, and we've talked about this before, Joe, on some of the webinars, that's why so many castles in England and Ireland are presumably haunted, because there are sounds that are trapped in there. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with author, model, and photographer Monica Randall. We travel in the same circles,
Remember
and
Monica?
she's written some great books about the Gold Coast mansions. She actually had gone to England and investigated some of these castles. I forget what kind of apparatus or whatever she had that measured sound, but what are the castles made of? They're made of stone and wood, and it's organic material. So the energy and the voices, and through this, whatever this machine
you're
was.
flashing again.
Oh, it was? I didn't even see that. But whatever these, this machine that she had, it picked up voices speaking in Old English. And it's not like it was haunted by spirits that were there. I mean, maybe it was in some areas of it, but what she picked up was residual energy that was just trapped in this organic material. So it really is fascinating. So do we have that, an EVP or that, or we just heard it? I don't think we have the drums.
No, I don't think
Right.
so. But again, besides what I was talking about earlier about time changing space, that some can happen in the past, we could peek into it. It's interesting what you just said about the organic nature of the stone and everything, because that energy, it cannot be destroyed. It can change, it can move around, it can be all, morphed into something else, but you still have that energy. And I was just thinking, maybe that's how it works. That's the mechanism. You nabbed it. Because organic stone, rock, people, birds, animals, earth, it all has energy, living energy. And so the energy of the sound of the voice gets trapped, well, not trapped, it moves into, it becomes part of the living energy of the rocks and stone of the castle. See what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's fascinating
to us. Yeah, so we should explore that whole idea of how it's created, because in other words, it's like we have the shots for COVID. They have like a little thing that spikes the protein that causes the vaccine could think we're, the cells are being attacked, so then they create the immunity. It's like you trigger the organic material of the stones to say, okay, let me hear the voice that you have stored within your organic cells of stone.
Yeah. And we're not the only ones that have come up with this. I mean, we had our webinar
Yes, we are.
on Peter on Peter Underwood's 10 Types of Ghosts.
We say it enough times, people will say, oh,
yeah.
Kerriann and Joe came up with that.
No. But it was actually one of Peter Underwood's 10 Types of Ghosts. If you tuned into that webinar, we discussed this. It's called an atmospheric ghost. Again, it's not that it's a spirit that is, or a ghost that's haunting the actual location, but it's energy, residual energy causing the phenomenon. So it is fascinating. So we'd like to show you some photos. Do we have any EVPs, or I don't know if we have any.
I have a couple. Let me just. So remember I said earlier, this place to me is sort of like The Shining. So when I show you these photos in a minute on PowerPoint, this is what we heard when we were in the lobby from this. Oh, you had a piano story. You want to share?
No, that was the piano story with the kids.
That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
Do you have any other photos that you took that you had included?
Yeah, I added a couple. Okay. Hang on a second.
And then we have some pictures from the cemetery as well.
Let me see.
I want to get a couple of shots of that. I think there's.
Oh, there's the piano playing.
Yeah.
All right, play that again.
I keep expecting Jack Nicholson to come walking down with an axe saying, "Here's Johnny."
Right.
All right. Anyway, sorry about that.
That was cute.
Yeah, I have an EVP. Let me get that queued up. Let me see here. So this one's interesting because here it is. It's not on a video, and it's just on okay, here we go. All right, and that is, I just have to share this particular window. I think this is it here. Can you see that screen there? It says that little, okay, you see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was actually, we were walking through, we're going to show the slide in a minute. We were walking through the lobby and stuff. And you made this comment, like they were morphing your voice. I have some morphed voices of yours, which are really
Right.
funny.
At Raynham Hall, we have.
No, here too.
Oh, really?
I discovered, yeah, tonight, but
Okay.
or today, but I'm not going to play that. But anyway, you're kind of giddy, and you were like something kind of energy was making you kind of strange. And then you're gonna hear like bump, 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 like that, like spirit raps, okay? Which we didn't do because we were the only ones in that room at the time.
Right.
And then you're gonna hear someone say murder.
Really?
Murder. Yes.
Oh, this is all new to me.
Yeah. And I think of The Shining. Remember the kid kept saying red rum, which was murder backwards. So here we go.
It's a ghostly.
It is.
Did you hear the dump,
Oh,
dump,
yeah.
dump, dump, dump?
That was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, we were just standing in the lobby there.
It's a ghostly.
It is. I think we.
Did you hear it? Murder. And
No, I don't think I heard it.
yeah, and I'll cue it up to that part. And after he says murder, I immediately say, "Did you hear that?" But you were kind of dancing and singing and talking about something. So here is murder.
I think
Murder.
Oh, yes.
I think we. What was that?
Yeah, I did hear it that time.
Now, interesting. After I hear it, what do I say? And there was no reason for me to say it. I say sorry about that.
But you said, what was that?
What was that? But right after that, I say sorry about that.
Yeah.
Because somebody was murdered. So
Yeah.
sorry about that. Sorry you died.
Yeah.
All right, so
And
here, I'll play
again, these are white noise EVPs.
White
So that's
noise.
why they are harder to hear than the ones we
Right.
play that are newer from our investigations over the
Right,
past,
so-
the earlier years.
Yes, I'll
Later
play the whole
years, I
thing
should
through.
say.
It's a ghostly.
It is. I think we. What was that? Sorry about that. I know I'm recording this, remember, so I'm sure there was something was said on that. It wasn't.
You'll have to listen to this one.
Okay.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, murder. So I don't know who was murdered, but that was a grand hotel. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff happened there. Stuff happened in the rooms. There's a lot of energy there. It could have been an Indian. Could have had to do with the massacre.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So,
All right. So now we have some photos, right?
Yes, let me cue that up here. And we'll start the show. And okay, and let me share that screen for you all. Here we go. And I think this, yeah, here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So you
So
wanna
this
go
is
through
this.
that?
This is the cemetery, believe it or not. And as you can see, this explains about Council Rock, and this large white quartz rock was once the center of tribal activity for the Montauk Indian Nation. Tribal meetings were held in its shadow and often included representatives of all the 13 tribes that inhabited Long Island. The Council Rock provided a tangible symbol of the spiritual and political unity of the native peoples of Long Island. Today it serves as a memorial to the many tribal members buried nearby and as the historic heart of the Montauk Tribal Organization. So this makes me very happy. And I like that little daffodil that you see in the back there.
Carrie,
you
hang
know.
on one second. I'm just switching this window.
Okay.
Just keep talking about it.
So
bring
it's
it back in a
just,
second.
I'm very happy, as I was saying, that they have memorialized this area because of what had happened and that the Montaukets are represented there.
And
All
bringing it
right, what
back
do we
now.
have up next, Joe?
All right, let's see here. There we go. I got it now.
All right,
Oops.
so there's Council Rock again. All right, this is, this is a horizontal shot of this, but for the cover of Ghosts of Long Island, it was a
I remember
vertical
this.
shot.
Right.
And it was in black and white, which was even more dramatic. But if you go up these steps, you get to the top, you see such amazing views. And again, I would go when there's not that much brush, like we went, I think it was early spring, it looks like
Right.
here. Here's other clearings with these rocks. You know, this is right next to those steps.
You know, I lived in Southern California, and if you go into the, you know, the hills, the foothills and stuff, it's very much like this. It's sort of these rambling kind of, you know, grassy areas with trees and rock.
There's a lot of deer that camp out here now. A
Yeah,
lot.
boy, I could
Now
see
look
this
at
is-
all these rocks.
This is
So-
Tick Haven here.
Yeah, this is Tick Haven. But there's a lot of these rocks, and who knows what they represent or how they were set up at one point, because they kind of look like they've been thrown haphazardly. So they may have been part of, again, whatever the Indians had used for their
You know,
their fires or their homes.
Yeah, I get a sense almost this was some sort of sacred area. In fact, this is interesting here. This rock here has this cutout. I don't know if that's just natural or
Right.
you see this. It almost looks like a skull here in a way. You know, but
All right. So here's this is to the left of. So if you go up the steps and you make a left, this is what you eventually get to, and you could sit there and look out. And
It's really beautiful.
so this is one view facing.
is that Montauk Lake? Is that
Yes.
the, that's the lake?
No, that's Fort Pond Bay.
Oh, Fort Pond Bay.
Yeah. Okay, so here you can see the different waterways here, all the way out in the distance on the right. That leads out to Block Island Sound and Long Island Sound.
It looks almost looks like what you'd see up in Maine on the coastal Maine. You know.
Right. All right, so now this view of the manor was taken from the cemetery, so you could see how close it is. You can't cut through. I mean, there's all this brush here, but this is well, it's a side shot, but the main entrance to the manor is dead center in that white area here.
Mhm.
Down below there would be the main entrance
Right here.
to the manor. Yes, down below that. All right, here's another view. You can see the railroad, the train coming in this picture. All right, here are orbs that I photographed, not with Joe, at another time at night in the cemetery. I mean,
You
there's
always
just
get the most beautifully
tons.
colored orbs. You
Yeah,
are always
this-
all these different colors.
Yeah, this was really amazing with the different colors, different sizes and everything.
Love the
So
green ones.
this was at Fort Hill Cemetery at night.
I get the sense these spirits are very happy. You know, they were in agreement with you, hence the color.
Mhm.
Except
Look at this one, though.
Except this one.
Look
It just
at this
made a
one.
liar. This is
Um,
the chief.
This is an amazing
that is
shot
pretty
here.
cool.
Yeah.
And there's nothing beyond there, right? I mean, it's not like it's reflecting off a light
No,
pole.
no, this is really pitch black. I mean, really pitch black. So what I do in getting these photographs, I have my flash go off, and the flash is what attracts it. If you look into the upper right-hand corner, you see two more orbs right there, and then in the very corner coming through. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. These are beautiful.
Here's another couple. I see five actually in this. Yep.
Look at
This
that.
one. I mean,
Orb
the
Central.
more I started taking photographs, the more they started coming out.
You know, this one
So-
reminds me almost a space view of the
Yeah.
planet Earth. You can
And
almost
this
see the
was in the middle of
continents.
August.
It's crazy. Look at that. But look how dark it is, everybody.
It's really dark.
I mean, you can just
yeah.
feel.
It's
the
really,
haunting
really
energy.
dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I think down below it's the car headlights that you see here.
Mhm.
But here you can see the Montauk Manor in the background. Just tons and tons of orbs. But
And they're
here's
just
that big-
guarding.
That green one again, that big
Yeah, they're
green
just
one.
guarding the cemetery. They're just.
Yeah, there's one on the lawn. See how it's translucent down on the lawn towards the bottom?
Mhm.
You see that, Joe? Right there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so here is from the inside, this is the doors. If you're heading out.
I should start that piano music, the shiny music.
And they've since these are old photographs. It's been updated and renovated. I mean, it's beautiful here, but it's even more beautiful now.
Remember this place?
So this is some of your photos then.
Yeah, yes.
So
I'm
again,
sorry,
the
yes.
hallways look very different than they do now. They have, I think they're more of a greenish color
Yeah.
on the
Look
walls,
at,
and they have
don't you get,
paintings. But yeah,
look at
this is
this
just a crazy picture.
this is
yeah.
what we were doing at like 10:30, 11
Yeah.
o'clock at night, midnight. We were walking around the halls. And,
Yeah, yeah.
this
looks
reminds me a
different.
lot of, the Queen Mary, which is anchored in Long Beach, California. It's very haunted. It's a hotel, and people go rent rooms just to walk around and see ghosts. And this reminds me a lot of like what you would see on a ship, like on one of the levels.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's
Okay, so
amazing.
here's
Look
a
at
great
this.
shot. And again, it's slightly different now. They've done a little bit more upgrades, but it's absolutely beautiful. And there are actually old photos all over the manor, in different hallways showing what the manor looked like during the Carl Fisher days. They have some great historical photos if you go there. And it looks very much like this.
There it
There's the
is.
piano, the player piano.
Look at it. One of the keys was down. It must have been playing.
Yep.
And this was around where the EVP, the murder EVP came.
Oh, really?
You were just zoned out here by something. I
I
don't know
look
what.
exhausted there.
It was a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might have gone to the windmill first and then went out. I'm not sure. This is your photo, right?
Yeah, this is the entrance. Beautiful archway. This is the side that faces the water.
Look at the size of that place.
Yeah, the rooms with the balconies at the top, that's the third floor. Those are very beautiful rooms. And then down below here, I think the first one is privately owned. And then some of the ones in the bottom, you can, you could stay overnight there.
It's funny. In a way, it almost, the story of the Hearst Castle, I think.
Yes.
I think it was the Hearst, right? That there was the guy who lived there or built it that had made the Remington firearms, and there was something about this Indian spirit was trying to kill him, so he built this rambling rooms, the stairways that went nowhere to try to confuse the spirits so they wouldn't find him. I think that was kind of the story, but this place just, you could see how it's different parts were built and for different purposes. I think, is that the last picture? I think. Yeah.
Are you sure? I thought I had some other ones. Maybe not.
No, I think that's it. You only had about 15
Oh,
or 16.
okay. Oh,
If there are any, you think there are any others? Because that's all I got.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. I know.
Okay.
I
I had
to
a
you
bunch
while
more, but they're a lot of duplicates.
All right. We have some questions in our chat room here. All right. This one from Jean. Did any of the soldiers see or hear anything paranormal? I often wondered that. There's nothing that I've come across in my research that has stated that any of the soldiers talked about anything on the paranormal side. I wish we knew that.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. And I don't know, with what's gone on with Teddy Roosevelt, with all the people dying, I'm sure they were probably more worried about just staying alive, but they might have seen some stuff too.
Yeah, maybe. And then Jean also asks, so all those little lights are orbs? Yes, Jean, those are orbs.
Yeah.
And you could tell they're not dust particles because many of them are speckles. You could see how each one is different. Some are translucent.
You could see through. If you could see through the orb, then it's not dust, because dust is material. It's opaque.
Yeah, but those are real prime examples of orbs. Now, we're going to have to go back, Joe, to one of the photos here, because one of our attendees just said, you see a face in the floor of the lobby picture. And the person says, go back. So let's go back.
Let me get that one. And let's see. I think this is it. Just queue up here.
This is why when we photograph, we have to really...
Which one? Is it this one? This one? It could you tell us which picture it is, or?
All right, while we're waiting for, oh wait, this one.
Oh, this one here, or the other one?
This one. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, no, the other.
Got it. This one.
Is this the one? I'm assuming this one. Yes, he has a mustache. Okay, where is this now? On the floor.
Mhm. Right here.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. And this is one of your photos, right, Joe?
Yeah, and it's
a little out
interesting
of focus.
because it is. And
Right in
sometimes-
front of the chair.
okay. Oh, I
Okay.
see it. Yeah, I see it
Wait,
right
hold
here.
on, hold on.
Right here, right? Ask him if it's over here. If this is it. Right here.
Oh, I think I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, the face is turned sideways. Is that right? Here's the eyes, the mouth,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I think I see it now. Wow, good catch.
Good catch, yeah. And I want to say something. A lot of times when I do a lot of spirit photography, and a lot of times when you get the spirits, I do believe they mess with the camera, the sonar, or the zoom or focus equipment, because you
Yeah, the
get
face
these
is looking up, Catherine is saying. The face
Yeah.
looks like it's looking up at the chair. Yeah.
at the chair, yeah. And a lot of times they blur the photos because then they can make some face or something.
Right.
In other words, they need to make it less apparent so they can mess with the
Right.
the photography of it.
And what's amazing, I mean, this is good that you're looking at it that way, because when we go out on these assignments and we photograph, it takes a long time for us to go through the images because we have to really look at all kinds of things to see if,
Yeah.
some things aren't always obvious,
Yeah, go ahead. Keep
So-
talking about that. I want to take a look at that one. I want to see if I can focus it or something for you guys. So keep discussing.
There's another one, let's see, no by the door, and the white by the door on the floor.
Yeah, hang on a
All right,
second.
and Jean saying I see a face under the door also. So it's in that same picture, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
So there might be a
find-
couple of things.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yes,
find
okay, they're
that
saying
picture
yes.
for you.
All right, if we go back, let's look under I see a face under the door.
Yeah, hang on a second.
Okay.
Um,
In the meantime, Francis is telling us that we have a Council Rock in Oyster Bay dating to 1672. Yes, so that is true. Thank you,
Let's see.
Francis.
Okay, I'm bringing this up in Photoshop so we can look at it a little better.
Yeah, Jean thinks it looks like a soldier with a mustache.
Okay.
All right, so there might be two things in there.
All right. You see
Okay.
you see Photoshop, or this is Photoshop Elements. That's all right. All right. First of all, let's see.
Yeah, it looks like there's a jacket almost too.
So we talking about this right here,
Yeah,
right?
that, but then I think they're also saying there's something by the door. I don't know if I'm
We're
seeing that
over
one.
here.
Let's see. On the floor, under the door.
At the door. Oh, okay. Oh, maybe this reflection. All right, let me. I hear my spirit friends talking to me right now. I think they're trying to help.
This almost looks like, wait, the reflection here almost looks like the hat that they wore, that Teddy Roosevelt wore. Is anyone else seeing that? Like right in the door.
Talking about over here.
Yeah, it looks like, to me, it looks like the hat.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
So then we get into the whole thing. What is that word that we can never say, Joe?
Pareidolia
Yes.
and matrixing.
So it's a fine line, because you wonder, is it an image of a spirit? Is it something that's trapped, or is it something that we're just seeing with our eyes?
I think I think it could be a combination. I think, when you drive a car and you see a traffic light and it's red, it means stop. You're recognizing that pattern. I think the spirits monkey with light energy the same way, and they put us in certain positions so that we could see what they want to communicate to us.
Okay, yeah, they're saying they see it in the reflection. I see it in the door. on the door itself, but they're saying that they see it.
I got a great
Looks
idea.
like Teddy. I think it looks like Teddy Roosevelt too, because it looks like that hat, with the
Yeah,
side
yeah.
piece.
You know what we
see
have
it.
to do? You know what we have to do, Kerriann? I
Uh,
think we have to take a night and we have to
eyebrows, nose, mustache on the floor. Yep.
we have to do something like an analysis like this. Maybe take some pictures and go
Yeah.
through them with do some of our work
Mm-hmm.
with the audience
Mm-hmm.
and have everybody help.
Yeah, that's
to
an idea
analyze.
because, but it's fun. This is why we like what we do because, I mean, a lot of photos we get are very obvious, like the girl at the Ketchman, but things like this, you wonder if there's matrixing going on.
Yeah, and again, this was done years ago. It was one of our early investigations.
Yeah, very, very early.
And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff like you, Kerriann, you always say, if you go back to your wedding photos, your family photos, you'll find orbs that you never noticed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we could go back to our old
Oh,
photos.
I'm sure, because we're more attuned into looking at things, to finding things at this point. But thank you,
that was fun. Yeah,
audience,
thank
for
you guys. That was
sharing
great.
that with us. I do have a couple of things before we wrap up that I want to mention to you. First, next Wednesday, we're doing another webinar. We're back to back this month because of the Easter and Passover holidays. And next week is going to be part 1 of the culprit spy ring. All right, so it's very interesting. We're going to introduce you to George Washington spies and show you some of the actual trails where the British and the Patriots roamed. Now, this is private areas, so you would not be able to see this. So definitely tune in because you'll see some things that you won't be able to go out and see. And then we're thinking about doing a part 2 to that in May. Down the road in Strong's Neck is a place called Spy Coast Farms. And there's so much information. Joe and I have spent years and years studying Strong's Neck, Setauket area. So I hope you join us for that next Wednesday. And the other big news that everyone has been asking me for so long, and I must apologize that it took so long, our past webinars, if you've missed them, are finally up on the YouTube channel. So I didn't even put this out with the email group. I'm planning on sending it out hopefully on Friday. If you go under Kerriann Flanagan Brosky on YouTube, you will find the past webinars and you could view them for free if you missed them or if you want to listen to them again.
Kerriann. Great
so
job.
I'm really excited. Again, I had a lot going on with the book deadline and everything, and I had to work with my web guy to edit the beginnings because in the early, when we first started doing the webinars, I had no idea the first 10, 15 minutes when Joe and I, before we would go live, it was recording. So all of that had to be edited out. So it was a process, but they are up and running. And I think at this point, what we're going to do, Joe and I are going to have the webinar next week and then do 2 more in May. And then we're going to break for the summer. I'll be getting my manuscript back in June from my publisher, from the editor. Again, Haunted Wild Mysteries. It's coming back to me in June, and I'll have very short amount of time to read it one last time and see the proofs and everything. So I'm going to be busy with that. And then also Joe and I need time we need some time off in the summer, but we need time to work on our presentation that we're hoping to do
It's going to
live
be very, very
for
busy.
you. Yes. So we want to get everything ready. We have to actually write the lectures. We're going to be working on
The EVPs,
either on the website or possibly on the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
We've been
YouTube.
talking about. We have a lot of EVPs. So Joe and I really have our work cut out for us in preparation for the fall events.
Right. And I just want to say, because it was the summer and things are opening up, most likely, Kerriann, I'll probably have one or two of a couple events, like, tours or ghost group readings or some group meetings or seances or something, some kind of events.
Oh, for yourself in the summer.
Yeah, for the group. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody has the urge to just stay involved with the.
Right. You could contact Joe, and we'll be in touch with you guys.
Yeah.
Also, I know I've mentioned this before, But if you're not familiar with my Facebook page, my professional Facebook page, where you have to like it, it's not a friend page. I'm still running the Facebook contest. We're 5 weeks in and people are having a lot of fun. I make you work a little bit. You have to look up some things. But if you want to sneak,
she doesn't let me tell anybody where the clues are either.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want a sneak peek at what is coming up in the new book, then like my Facebook page, and every Monday I will post a photograph. This week, I don't know if you checked it out, Joe, it's a picture of you. So I'll post a picture of either Joe or myself or us with a selfie, and there'll be some kind of thing in the background, and I'll give a little clue, and you'll have to do a little bit of research to find out. And then people private message me their answers, and if you guess it correctly, then you earn a raffle ticket. And I literally write on the raffle tickets. And so after, if I do it 10 weeks, if you play every week and you get a raffle ticket, you could get up to 10 raffle tickets towards the grand prize, which is going to be a signed copy of the book, one of the preview copies before the book actually is released, that I get my own personal copies. I'm going to be giving that out along with an Amazon gift card. Usually we like to have people behind the stage, behind the scenes at book review for the launch, but I don't think that's going to happen. Book review is going to be working with us, but I don't know at this point if it's going to be a webinar or a signing or so. So at this point, though, you'll still get a nice prize. So before we sign off, we just have a couple more questions. Jean's saying yay, that she's interested. Great. Let me just see what else in the chat. Okay. Andrea said that she saw the face on the floor and she thinks it looks like an Indian with face makeup on, pointy chin. Could be. Let me see. Okay. All right. Thank you for another great program.
Thank you.
I don't know. My husband's telling me to check my phone. Is there something that we need to see on here, Coral? I don't know if he's sending something here. I don't know. I'm not getting it.
Did he send you a photo?
He's saying face on the floor. I don't know if what he's sending me. It's not coming up though on my email right now. Oh wait. Let me see. I think he said it's an image here. Oh, there's a couple of things. I don't know if you guys could see my phone from my phone because I don't have time to download it.
Yeah, hold it back a bit. Hold it back a little bit more. So
yeah,
what are
I'm seeing it. I'm actually seeing like a couple of things in there, but all right. If I had more time, I would try to get it up, but all right. Well, you guys could keep looking at those pictures if you come on to this webinar will be on probably in a couple of weeks again, but I hope you all saw it. And Jean has one last question. Are those orbs guarding the cemetery? I don't know if they're guarding them, but I think they're just floating around.
I think they are.
They were interested in what we were doing.
Yeah, I agree with Jean. I felt a sense of ownership that they're sort of just there. I felt that's the feeling when I saw, especially the green ones, and the red one. He kind of looked like, don't mess with me.
Right. And one last question from Catherine. Have you investigated Camp Hero? No, we haven't. And it's actually because so many people have done it already.
Yeah.
I have thought about it, maybe for some other possible project. So it's funny because it's been in the back of my head for a while, but there are
we've
so
talked
many.
About it a couple of times.
There are so many books and things that have already been written on it. So.
Yeah, the one thing we don't want to do, and it's never really happened. We don't want to go to a place and end up being like 3 other ghost hunting groups there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So because it's just that's some of the places like Amityville Horror, Kings Park,
right.
Katie's Bar, which we've we've investigated, but some of these places have been just so overdone that we want to come up with new places.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, I hope everyone joins us next Wednesday for the Cult Perspiring webinar. And again, if you want any of my books, you can get them right through my website, personalized and signed. So thank you so much for supporting us and for joining us on these webinars.
It was a lot of fun tonight. You have a great night, everybody. Thank you.